Shut up and refill more popcorn. Shut up and refill more popcorn.
Waka waka, guys, and welcome back to a special episode of Shut Up and Refill My Popcorn. I feel like this needs no crazy music intros, no crazy drum rolls. Of course, it's me, your host, Nicho, alongside my podcasting partner in crime, Mr. CJ Emanuel. And we are here joined by a special guest, Mr. Jon Poz.
What's up, boys? How you doing?
What's going on, John? Like I was saying earlier, you're probably one of the biggest guests we've had so far. No offense to anybody, but
Thank
you. Your resume is incredibly stacked. You've got the 2-man power trip podcast, the what do they call it? The Pinnacle? No. The main podcast, the one that kind of got y'all in, or was that?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. And then you got a plethora of other shows. I love the one you did with Shane Douglas with you and your partner in crime, Chad. And then, oh man, drawing a blank here, Tom Pritchard.
Yep.
Like, God, I mean, I feel like I've literally been rushing all day. I should have been made a list. Very bad at this. But let the people know what is up. What are we going to get into today, and how we got into this subject?
Yeah, so doing a ton of wrestling podcasts, but I love posting on Instagram and stuff about the villains of the movies, as I, bit of a, I wouldn't say movie buff, movie mark, I guess you could say. Just love movies, but I always love the villains. I feel like they're the best part, usually, for the most part of most movies, or at least they'll move the story forward and they really make the movie what it is. I feel like maybe the most important part, maybe the MVPs of the movie. So I was posting about Memento, the villain who possibly was the villain of the movie, and then you said you never saw it. I said, oh my God, you've got to see Memento. How have you never seen it? It's one of the greatest movies of all time. And really, if you think about it, kind of started off Christopher Nolan down on into a great path of great movies. So if people weren't aware, Nolan is the creator of Memento, the director, producer, creator of Memento, which is a great movie with Guy Pearce and Joey Pants. It's an awesome movie. But that's how we kind of got the ball rolling. You're like, oh, we should talk about it on the show.
Yeah. Like, so we started following each other on Instagram, and then I began getting messages, DMs from you with these stories you're posting. And you can tell which ones I know and I like, because I'm always sharing and posting them. And Memento it struck a chord because, like I said before, one of my dearest friends who has now passed away, going on 2 years, he would always tell me, dude, you got to watch this movie. You'll love it. It's a little bit, if you like the Batman movies, it's the same director, it's the same dude who did those movies, and just give it a shot. And I would always tell him, well, what is it about? Like, kind of give me a little, not a spoiler, but he's like, it's shot in a certain sequential way, but it doesn't really take away from the story. It actually gives it that suspenseful, like what happens next. And then you, in your mind, you kind of putting the pieces together, and I always told him, oh yeah, I'll watch it. Yeah, I'll watch it. I never did. And I think whenever you sent that story, it finally clicked in my head. Just watch the movie. You would just go make an effort to find it on Netflix or wherever. And I did. I found it on Tubi. Literally watched it in the doctor's office, and then finished it when I got home.
Such a great movie. There actually is a DVD version. I don't know if it's online or anything, but I know if you actually had the DVD, I know a lot of people don't know what DVDs are anymore these days, but they actually had this version of the movie where it was backwards, aka forward, like they start from the beginning and go to the ending, which obviously,
Wow.
if you haven't seen it, never watch it that way. You got to watch it the original way first, which is backwards to forwards. It's almost like the ending to the beginning. But there is a version on the DVD, which is really cool. You can actually watch it from the beginning to the end rather than vice versa. But if you're watching it for the first time, obviously you need to watch the real version because it starts at the end. You think you know what's going on, then it goes to the beginning, and then you finally realize what's going on, which is awesome because the guy has this weird version of not really amnesia, but he has no short-term memory, so he has to write things down and tattoo stuff to himself and take notes and take Polaroid pictures and write notes in the Polaroid to remember what just happened 5 minutes ago because he can only remember long-term memories. Oh, so good. It's just what an interesting story, but just so well acted. Just I don't know. I love it. It's probably easily in my top 10.
Oh wow. Yeah, it is. It is a crazy. Like, I just to refresh myself because I this weekend I went and I just watched a bunch of YouTube clips, and then there was one video that says it was, I think it was Memento in 35 minutes, like from the beginning to the actual end. And then in my head, I'm watching it, trying to remember how it played off, in the regular, in the version I saw, the real version, where it plays backwards. It plays a scene that's the ending, and then cuts to a black and white scene from the beginning, and it intertwines, and it's really, really interesting how Christopher Nolan. I would assume he I know he directed it, but who wrote the movie? I'm assuming the writer would have been the one to kind of put that
Good question.
together, right?
He wrote the screenplay. His brother actually wrote a version of this as a short story. They were actually working on it together and sending notes back and forth together. And in his brother's version, the guy's name is escaping me, but he was in a mental institution, and then he ultimately tracked down the killer, but that's where the idea initially came from for him. So
it's him and his brother.
Story. Yeah. And then he said it's kind of like there's another piece of literature where the main character can't forget anything. So this movie is kind of like the yin to that yang of and as soon as I find Memento Mori is Jonathan Nolan, Christopher's brother's short story. And then let me see, I was looking in my notes being Wikipedia the other day, the other pieces. When I find it, I'll blur it out. But so yeah, so when it comes to, well, this is probably the first time in movie history that Memento and Elektra are going to be said in the same breath, But we reviewed that movie last, and one of my big complaints of that movie was it jumping in with Jennifer Gardner being Elektra with no storytelling. But you contrast that with this movie where you're right in the middle of the movie with Guy Pearce's character, but they do a remarkable job of the storytelling. Even with that piece of where the color sequences were like the reverse and the black and white was like moving forward, that was a dope element. But just the storytelling and the character development, Nicho, tell me if I'm wrong. That it's not even night and day. It's like from October to July difference.
I think it was very smart how they changed, the sequences, like one's in color, one's in black and white, because you can differentiate. Okay, obviously this is the past, or this is, this isn't what's going to happen next. This is obviously something that happened in the past. It's playing backward. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of audience members are just going to go, they're intrigued, and then I think it was also smart because you watch it the first time, and if you didn't get it the first time, you might want to go back a second or third time to kind of like, okay, now now I'm understanding the story, but it's just a simple story of a man whose wife is attacked, and he believes she died from that attack, but he's injured in the process, and at the same time, that's what causes his disability. Prior to all of this, he keeps talking about a man, Sammy Jenkins, or Sammy, yeah, it was Sammy Jenkins, right?
Yep.
And just in a way, we find out there was a Sammy Jenkins, but a lot of the story he puts to, like, for Sammy, it's actually his story, his background. and the woman who you'll recognize from CSI. CJ obviously has Wikipedia or the notes, and I'm shooting from the hip like always. So
you talking about
I forget it. I think it's
Natalie?
Maggie. Oh, it was Natalie. I know she was on
Natalie,
CSI, the main show.
Yeah, she was on a little independent film called The Matrix. You know what I'm saying? She
Oh
was
no, I'm
Trinity.
talking about the wife. The
You're
wife.
talking about
his wife. Oh, you're talking
Yeah.
about Catherine. Georgia Fox is her name. Is that who you're talking
Oh,
about? I never
she
heard.
looks like a Natalie, or maybe that's their character.
Natalie
On
was Carrie Ann Moss's
Natalie's
character.
Carrie Ann Moss's character.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's what it was. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
she was on ER.
Yeah, obviously she was on the Matrix.
Yeah, Georgia
And the
Fox was on
Acolyte.
ER. Yeah.
Side note: did y'all watch any of that Star Wars Jedi show?
Oh, Acolyte. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hadn't seen it yet. What's your
I
thoughts on
wouldn't
it?
honestly. I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. Somebody asked me who's a big Star Wars. He's a big Star Wars nerd. He's like, "Should I watch it?" And I said, "Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it." He's like, "Why? You watched the whole thing?" I was like, "I know, because once you start watching it, you can't just.
Yeah.
You got to watch it to the bitter end, no matter what." But I wouldn't honestly recommend it. There's a couple episodes that are literally maybe the worst episodes I've ever seen of anything. But it's
Wow.
weird. They mix in the villain is cool. He's a cool character. They mix in some cool cameos, but I was like, why wouldn't you use them more often or use them in a better light? Or like they had something there and they totally decided to go in whatever woke way they wanted to go with it. But it could have been good and the villain was cool, but they just totally ruined it. And there's 2 episodes that are like. And if you look at IMDb, I think it's like one of the lowest rated episodes. It got a 3 or something. I mean, it was like 3 out of 10. Really, really bad. It was just preposterous, especially for Star Wars. It's almost like, wow. So if you take out those 2 episodes, not bad. But obviously, you need them to be a part of the story. So I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, yeah, I hear I hear a bunch of stuff about that one, but I guess for the last 4 or 5 years. Star Wars has kind of been pushing the boundaries on what are the fans gonna like and what they're not gonna like. Like even I guess mainly from when Disney took control of everything and they did The Last Jedi and and so
Last Jedi was terrible.
People hated Boba Fett and I mean Boba Fett probably got the biggest pop there when he came on the Mandalorian season. Was it season 2? Yeah, so it's like it's like, oh, okay. It's like you can't please everybody, and everybody is literally glued to their TV to see what's gonna happen next and stuff. Ashoka was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Ahsoka was very good.
It was really good. Yeah.
Some of these shows got me to get into the like I didn't get into the Clone Wars or any of the animated stuff, but some people
Rebels is really good.
Yeah,
I like that.
It took me a minute to get used to the animation difference, between Clone Wars and because I went I went back to back Clone Wars to Rebels and kind of binge watched it during COVID. And once I got used to the and because what I'm talking about, it's kind of like a little more kiddie than the Clone Wars for the most part. But once I adjusted to that, I was really, really pleased with that. That and Clone Wars are my 2 favorite post original trilogy, original programming.
I remember the 2D cartoon Clone Wars, but I think that was like an animated movie of some sort. Or I always thought it was a show on Cartoon Network.
I know
it was a movie. They started out as a movie. Yeah, I feel like the later seasons of Clone Wars are really good. That's when it really starts to pick up.
Yeah, that last season, did it go 7 seasons or 8 seasons? I can't remember, but the last 2 seasons were phenomenal.
Yeah,
tremendous storytelling, and you knew what was going to happen, and they had the benefit of retroing and backfilling story and stuff. But it's very, very. I mean, as an old veteran and stuff, I really empathize with the clones a lot more. Between that and even Bad Batch, I kind of.
Bad Batch is cool.
Yeah. I started the 2nd season. I've been slowly getting back into it, but I really liked the Bad Batch. I thought that was really cool.
Funny, people rip Disney for what they've done with Star Wars, but I don't know. I like Force Awakens. I didn't mind Skywalker. I mean, Last Jedi was absolutely terrible, but But for the most part, like Rebels and finishing up Clone Wars and doing Bad Batch and Mandalorian. I mean, Mandalorian saved Star Wars. I mean, I feel like and the park. If you've ever been to the park, I mean, I feel like Disney's done a pretty damn good job.
I thought
And obviously, they
Obi-Wan was
made
pretty good.
$13 billion with it. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's not bad.
Yeah, Obi-Wan was pretty good. You know, even though
Oh,
they kind of have to explain, you know, the relationship with Leia because he supposedly had known her. You know, if you go back to episode
Yes.
1
Yep.
/ episode 4, she had heard of Obi-Wan Kenobi. She didn't
Yeah.
spend as much time around him as
Yep.
in the series, but
Yeah, that
that
was a
battle-
little bit, a little bit weak, especially if you watch Rebels. You know that the Grand Inquisitor's not dead, so that was so
Yeah.
weird. They pretended to kill him off. I was like, wait a second, I already seen the next thing in the sequence, and next thing in the order. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, what the heck? So that was a very Russo-esque swerve, bro. You know what I mean? He was trying to swerve us, bro. But that was weird. But Andor was awesome. I thought Andor was really good.
That was it. I couldn't think
that
of
was
this
the one I
show.
didn't get through. That's the one I had.
Really? Wow.
You
Oh,
saying
I
Slowly
like
going
it.
through it right now. Yeah,
It's
'cause
slow for sure compared to like Mandalorian and stuff.
Yeah,
I
think
liked
I've-
Rogue One. Rogue One was pretty.
Oh,
was really
Rogue
good.
One's awesome. Yeah. Yep. I mean, they kill everybody, but it's great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
And
have to.
well, yeah. And the ending is really cool. And Grand Moff Tarkin is great in it. So I thought that was great. I did like Boba Fett. It's just that you just got to get through the first couple episodes. When Mandalorian comes in, then it just kicks into high gear. And Cad Bane is in and stuff. So I thought it was pretty good.
Nice
Oh
touch.
yeah.
Yeah.
See how we go into the weeds quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
like I said, this happens all the time. So since we're already kind of in a rabbit hole a little bit, and we've veered off course. So John, my good friend Perplexity was helping me do some research on Jon Poz, and it said that you were, was it in the Rolling Stones magazine as far as like in who's is podcasting? So
Yeah, that was which was kind of surprising because we were only I don't know, maybe a year or two in at that point. But yeah, Rolling Stone put us in as like the top 18 podcasts to listen to. So I was like, wow, all right, I'll take that. Thank you, little Barry Horowitz, pat in the back. You know what I mean? That was pretty damn cool to be in there, and to even be in like TMZ for the Hogan interview. I was just like floored. I was shocked. I was like, wow. Sometimes I don't know who's looking or who's listening, but I was like, damn, it's Rolling Stone, TMZ, not bad, not bad at all.
So in your years in the podcasting game with multiple shows that you produced and or co-hosted, who are some of your biggest gets in wrestling where you thought you'd never ever have a conversation with this person? And then from that interview to now, are any of them that you still kind of have even if it's a casual relationship back and forth, is there any that you have developed a relationship with?
So just as far as gets, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, they're like 1 and 2 on my list.
That right?
Yeah, like if you put like the Mount Rushmore of wrestling for me, and I know everybody's different. LA Knight, by the way, same exact Mount Rushmore as me. I had Hogan, Flair, Austin, Rock. That was my 4, and I was Hogan number 1 by far, like on my list. Like he would be the top guy to get. Somehow interviewed him, then Flair. So now I just got to get Rock and Austin to finish the Mount Rushmore. But Hogan was unreal, just being a huge Hulkamaniac god since 1984, pretty much. Flair was phenomenal, was awesome, and it never has been released because I'm working on something, but have got the chance to have a great relationship with Bret the Hitman Hart. So really, really cool stuff I'm working on with him. Just floored that I could text him something and he'd be like, "Oh, I just watched that," or like, "Oh, you know what I mean?" Just and have like a back and forth with him is amazing. Also, obviously you would know this with Vinny Russo. He's just such a cool guy. I know some people don't want to hear that. They don't like him, blah, 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 but he's such a cool guy. He's awesome. Texting him random sports stuff. I could text him like a random joke or, rip on him or, say something like, "Oh, come on, this was terrible." That was pretty awesome to be able to talk to him too, because if you look at it, he wrote one of my favorite eras. He was the head guy right in the Attitude Era. So that's a pretty cool one too, to be able to have Russo on it. And back then, who the hell even knew who this guy was? And then all of a sudden through the years, you become a smart mark and you're like, man, this guy was writing some good crap on, you know what I mean? He's writing some of the best stuff. This Austin destroying Vince McMahon's Corvette, his nice, awesome 88 Corvette. Just really cool just to kind of be able to talk to some of these guys and even just text randomly stuff and they respond to you. You're like, wow, the young me would be going nuts right now. Like, this is crazy. Is this real life? This is crazy. Surreal.
It's crazy because it's like I met Vince about 5 years ago or so, and when he used to do his castrating the marks, and you buy a terrible Jeff Lane T-shirt, whatever.
Yep.
So I bought like 3 of them and had 4 appearances. And
Nice.
it's funny is so on my second appearance 5 years ago, I made this announcement that I was taking this stand-up comedy workshop, and then at the end of that, I was performing on this showcase, right? And he invited me back to perform that set and all that. And so since then, getting to know him through the years as podcast, and then also as a super fan and interacting with him on a regular basis. So he's kind of been part of that comedy journey with me. And at times he's kind of given me some advice. Matter of fact, last time we talked, he gave me this little nugget right here. He said,
okay, I want to do
no, so that was my good friend Disco. But when I met
after all this time, bro, he's still the biggest mark of all time.
And then he gave me some advice as far as comedy itself.
You'll want to get out of the comedy business immediately, man, because if that's comedy, bro, I want to be a plumber.
Yeah. So, so Vince has been and Vince is a funny dude. Just having conversation with him. He's very good at making you feel comfortable, like you're just talking to just another regular guy, not one of the most iconic and controversial people in this crazy sport that we're fans of, But the limited interaction I've been around him, he's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. Big sports fan too. So you want to BS with him about sports? He could talk about sports like a real man's man, but you wouldn't think so because you're like, oh, come on, this guy's writing about poop and this and that, and some of the crazy stuff, choppy your pee-pee. But he's great. That's just pure entertainment. He knows what the casual fans like, and obviously you can't knock the ratings. My God, I was talking to him about one show, 10.7 million people were watching one segment. It's just like, man, you can't knock it.
You Bet Your Life segment you talking about?
It wasn't even that. It was who the heck was it? It was Undertaker versus Austin. We were talking about that one match. But yeah, This Is Your Life. I think it did even more than that.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. Like, I mean, I remember him and Jeff saying, like, go back and look at the numbers, compare them to whatever you think, AEW or WWE is doing now. It's like, getting into comedy. It's like Red Fox, Richard Pryor, and then you got, me.
Yeah.
I've been on stage a few times, a handful of times in the last 2-3 years. I'm not even at that level. I'm not even at CJ's level. But
yeah.
But think about it too. Back then, they were basically saying, like, the NFL was basically saying, "Could you please take wrestling off of Monday nights because we wanted to have this all to our own, and you're killing our audience." Nowadays, you think the NFL would even? They would laugh if you said, "Oh, well, wrestling's going to leave Monday night." They'd be like, "What? Who? What?" They would just laugh it off. Yeah.
I remember flipping back and forth during those. I mean, flipping back on a Monday night, flipping between Monday Night Football, Monday Nitro, and Raw, and just playing catch up. And all of it was, especially if it was a good game, like the Brett Favre game against the Raiders when his father died, and he threw like 4 or 5 first half touchdowns. And then you watch an Attitude Era at the height and the storytelling, and as Vince has done his breaking down the attitudes over the past year and some change, and watching those with him and realizing how good, and Nietzsche, we talked about it last time, how separating the art from the man and appreciating how really committed to the bit Vince McMahon was, and without his buy-in to that character, I mean, the Attitude Era wouldn't exist at all. I don't think. I mean, Austin and Rock would have gotten over and stuff, but that Mr. McMahon archetype was perfectly done.
He was the best heel. Yeah,
John's words is like, you need a good villain.
Yeah,
villains are the underrated character in any story, and what a great villain Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon, because it's not Vince, his character was Mr. McMahon, and it was the blue collar man, working man, getting hitting a roadblock every time because his boss is being an ass, and him just trying to get over on the boss and stick it to him. And yeah, man, Vince is very underrated. I remember him from his WCW days. I'm from a small town here. We didn't have satellite TV. We had the basic of basic cable. So I didn't get to channel on Monday night. I didn't get to channel surf back and forth. I knew WCW had the Monday show, and I would only watch until Thunder came around. I was only watching Saturday night and the Clash of Champions, because I didn't have TNT or USA or anything like that. So when we got Thunder, what was like 98? I was then hooked because I had a weekly during the week, wrestling show. And then I slowly started, I think that's when digital cable came around and satellite, because like I said, small town, they got rid of all the cable. If you want to watch TV, you have to buy a satellite dish. And I think it was like 2002, we got the 2002, 2003, we got satellite TV. And yeah, so going back and hearing people talk about the Monday Night Wars and going back and rewatching the Raws and the Nitros, and it's like I was deprived of so much good shit.
Yes.
But at the same time, I knew who all these guys were. Hulk Hogan, you said your Mount Rushmore is Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Austin, and Rock. I knew Hulk Hogan from a Nintendo video game. That's how I knew him. That's how I knew his theme song. Him, Beefcake, Andre the Giant. I think it was WrestleMania Challenge for Nintendo. That was my first. And then, of course, he did those movies. He did the Suburban Commando, which, what movie would you recommend, John, with Hulk Hogan in it that would be perfect for me and CJ to talk about?
We haven't done the Hulk Hogan movie yet. Yeah.
No Holds Barred. Come on, you got to watch No Holds Barred. Even though Suburban Commando and Mr. Nanny are good, I would go No Holds Barred.
Yeah, because then you get Zeus in there as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna put that one on. I think we wrote that down. But yeah, we're gonna do that one.
That's so familiar. Yeah, because I've already did an episode on the Three Ninjas, High Moon, or no, High Kick, with this one with Hogan in it. That was a couple years ago, but yeah, I mean, that's how I knew of Hogan. Of course, he went to WCW then. Ric Flair, just being the WCW, and then he went to WWE and just learning all these different things. It's just, like I said, I mean, I was deprived of so much good shit. Is going back within the last maybe 10 years and watching everything with the network and being available and everything. It's really eye-opening, and just getting to know Vince through his brand. Like, I was one of those guys that always thought, yeah, maybe he did kill WCW. It was like I believed the hype. All the typical Mark hype of, bias against Vince Russo. I took, I believed it. And then I think he was on Austin's podcast, and he was promoting his brand, beginning on Podcast One. And then from there I was hooked and I was converted. I was saved, if you will, and it's such an amazing person that Vince is, when he talks about That's Life, when he talks about a bunch of, his personal stuff. And he's like you said, he's such a likable guy. He's not the character you saw, just like Vince McMahon wasn't the character you saw, even though he's going through all this mess right now and all that.
It looks like the Netflix series is portraying it like Mr. McMahon is actually how he was in real life, because Vince just had a tweet saying the character and the series is not true to who I am. That was a character I was playing. So interesting to see, I guess, the burial that'll be coming for Vince McMahon his way.
Yeah,
I think he said he saw a cut of it, and he can already tell the writings on the wall that when it comes out, people are just gonna be so against him. If they're not against him already because of the lawsuit and everything, but it's just wild what's coming to light in 2024. Like, holy shit. It's
pretty nuts. It's getting pretty crazy out there.
I know.
Are we in the Matrix? Did we die in 2012 and we're the CERN collider, like Ben and the conspiracy horsemen talk about, that we're in a different reality all of a sudden now?
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson. Yes, we're in the Matrix. We're stuck in the Matrix.
Yeah.
This is some weird, wild times. It does feel like it sometimes. Like, is the Mandela effect real? Did I just get zapped by one of those Men in Black light gimmicks and stuff and not realize it? Am I Leonard Shelby? I just not remember what the hell I did yesterday.
Yeah.
But there was some. Nicho, I kind of became a Vince fan also, right? I think it was the second Steve Austin show appearance where I finally said, okay, let me give the dude a chance. And his point being, okay, how come none of these people want to have a conversation with me? I'll have a conversation with anybody. And shortly around that time, I think he had a conversation with John Arezzi and started amend things like that. And I'm like, yeah, why don't these guys have conversation? If he is a fraud and a charlatan and a pathological liar, and he's saying, I'll go on your show, you can come on my show and call me out on it. And
he also he's given so many good people and that he knows that he's known through the years opportunities. I mean, John, y'all had the Shane Douglas on his brand for a good minute, right?
Yeah, a couple of years, yeah.
Yep. That's how I was introduced to you and the Chad through and I knew who Shane Douglas because ironically ECW used to run on TNN and that's one of the channels I had before they turned into what they did. I think the following year they got the WWE contract.
ECW,
yeah. But yeah, like not only that, but I mean, Big Vito, Disco, Stevie Richards, and then Stevie Richards knew Ben Hameen and all of them guys, and just giving opportunity, and it's like I think 2016 was when he got on the podcast one or where.
It was sometime around there, because he went from 16 podcast one, and he went to what was it, the other big one?
Yeah, and then he just went solo.
So when he went solo, I jumped on board.
Yeah,
he went solo when he started doing his own thing. I
respect
the hustle.
How long have you known? Vince Russo, John? Like, and how that relationship came about? Was it through Shane or?
Well, basically, I think it was 2017. I want to say where it started talking to him. I reached out because I wanted to interview him for the 2-man power trip, and then was saying, kind of built like, hey, I also do, something with Shane Douglas. We want to, expand it and see. And he's like, oh, I'm looking for talent. I know Shane forever. We're old friends. Why don't you join the network? So it really started because I wanted to interview him for my podcast, dying to interview him and, ask and answer some of the random questions that that we love to ask and we want to know about, because he was there for so many big moments, and obviously then he went to WCW. Why did he go to WCW when he was number one? And I think everybody now knows that story, but it was so interesting back then to get him on, get Ed on, Ed Ferrara at one point. So that was kind of like the start of it, and been really friendly with him ever since. I still record with him, but either once or twice a month, covering pay-per-views from the Attitude Era, basically.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. And the 2-man power trip, was that your first venture into podcasting, or did you do something before, you and Chad before? Like, what is the origin story that is Jon Poz in the podcasting game?
So that was really it. I was doing like blog stuff and doing wrestling interviews for a blog, maybe for a couple of years that my brother was doing. And I was like, oh, but it was just, you're just talking to the guy or emailing back and forth and you're just doing the questions. So strictly for the blog, no audio. And then I did an interview with Jeff Jarrett, just over the phone, did an interview with Jeff. I don't know why he agreed to do it. I had no real background as far as like saying like I've interviewed this guy, this, and I work for this. He just agreed to do it. He goes, hey, I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a shot. And it's fun. It's still buddies with Jeff. He still jokes around with me about it to this day. He goes, you owe me. And, just joking around. Because I asked him if he would record something for me a few weeks ago, and he did it no problem. And he was actually backstage at AEW. I was like, my God. I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, you're so busy, but you still find time. He's like, Poz, I'll do it for you. We've known each other for a long time. So I was like, man, that goes back 9 or almost 10 years of doing it. And he was the first guest I really interviewed. And I was just literally randomly found the contact info, asked him. He was promoting Global Force. He was promoting New Japan and how they were a part of that pay-per-view, a part of Wrestle Kingdom. So it just kind of started with Jeff, oddly enough, and still friendly with him to this day, which is kind of just amazing to me because I was always a Jeff Jarrett fan. I always thought he was kind of under the radar. I always thought he was such a great heel. He always got so much heat. They absolutely hated him in WWF. They absolutely hated him in WCW. I feel like he just was so good at his job. But one of the cool things, again, is like, man, I can't believe I'm still like friendly with Jeff, where I just like texted him like, "Hey, I want to record something real quick. Would you mind?" He's like, "All right, but we got to do it this time because I'm backstage at AEW." So just awesome to think like, man, the guy still makes time, and I've known him, for 9 years or so, but he could be like, "Oh, come on, this guy, leave me alone already." Pause, like, come on, I'm not
But
recording.
I think that speaks volumes of who you are character wise. You're
Yeah.
respectful. You're not throwing them under the table just to get over on them and stuff like that. And I feel like, that you got to be humble and also respectful of other people. And it goes a long way. I mean, you can't be. I mean, you can be a heel on TV, but be the greatest guy behind the scenes, and no one would know unless they were in that circle. And
Right.
so, and I mean, you said you've about what 9-10 years. That's a pretty good.
No, 9 or 10, yeah, coming up on 10.
Oh, okay.
So
So
that was pretty much the beginning of it, was with Jeff, just doing an interview with Jeff, and that kind of just like launched it from there.
That shirt he used to wear when he was the country western star gimmick has a lot of heat with me, with the big slits in it. Oh my God.
Yes.
I was watching those episodes. I was like, I was getting angry all over again.
I still don't get what it's like supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like what is that? I don't particularly get it. Like what the hell do you call those guys? Damn it. Chippendales or whatever. Like what is it?
That's kind of
right?
kind of a vibe. Yeah, like he was like a honky tonk stripper or something,
Yeah, but it didn't make sense to the
my
to the
heat is why
honky
he
tonk.
didn't have Deborah wearing that. Why he had to wear it. Deborah didn't get to
Yes, true. Although I used to love those suits that she used to wear, with like the really short skirt. That was pretty good. She was really over for a couple reasons, for sure.
Yeah, I can think of
think of two.
Could think of a couple, yeah.
So, Poz, what was your gateway match into your wrestling fandom? What was your Kerry Von Erich versus the world champion Ric Flair in a steel cage in Reunion Arena? That was my match that made me a fan. What was yours?
Really, when I think back, it was just Hogan himself. Like I just fell in love with Hulk. I got his figure. I was like almost too young to remember anything other than Hogan, but it was really Hogan was feuding with Orndorff around the time, and I remember like I hated Orndorff with like just a passion, and then Bundy came along. So God, this is '86,
wow,
so that's like my first memory. So I was just about 4. I guess that's probably when you really start developing memories. But my first memory is just loving Hulk and being obsessed with him. It's like, man, this guy is a superhero, but he comes to life. Like he's a legit real guy, superhero. And then he's feuding with Orndorff. So it's like, God, I hate this freaking guy, Orndorff. Like turned on Hulk. He's a piece of crap. Like he's just garbage. And then Bundy came along and like this big, ugly, I hate this guy. So it was probably around '86 was really my first memory. So it was the feud with Orndorff and the feud with Bundy. And then it was just kind of off to the races from there. It was like anybody that feuded with Hogan, I hated. Anybody that was associated with Hogan for the most part, I loved. Like I loved Hillbilly Jim, Macho for a while until Macho turned. I liked Warrior for a bit, but then Warrior beat Hogan at WrestleMania 6. So I hated Warrior for a bit. Hated Slaughter for a little bit, even though I loved him in G.I. Joe. So it was kind of like whoever feuded with Hogan. I hated Piper. I hated at first. Andre, I hated. Liked him for a little bit, but then I started hating him. So it was like a love of Hogan. It was like a blind love of Hulkster.
Yeah, that's when you're little. Yeah, you're right. You cheer the baby face, you boo the heels. Then when you come, I don't know, 13, 14, you start rebelling against society. You start identifying with the heels, and the heels are cool and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, my older brother, he put me on to the Freebirds because he was from Florida, and I was a straight Texas kid, white meat baby face Von Erichs and stuff. So, and just like you, I was Gentleman Chris Adams until he turned on him. Iceman King Parsons until he turned on him. It was the same thing. Those are my guys until they started to fall off the rails right around like those mid to late 80s. But I always love asking that question because I can see like the little kid. You go back to your little kiddom when you're talking about your fandom. So I always think, it never goes away.
Those were the days. Oh my God, of like living and breathing and dying with Hulk. Like he had to win. He better win. Oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, you were life and death with your favorite guy. And Freebirds, man, like they were really to me, especially looking back, as far as like cool heels, they kind of like invented being a cool
Oh,
heel
yeah.
because
Yeah.
for the most part, you hated the heels, but them, it's like, I don't know, like the music, just Gordy just looks like, he's going to kill somebody. Hayes is cool as hell. Buddy Roberts is funny as hell. They're
Yeah.
like the original cool heels.
Yeah, and he was the one like you wanted him to get his ass kicked
Oh,
the
yeah,
most,
Yeah.
just the most. And just some of the stories I've heard of him weren't that far from the gimmick himself. He was kind of a crazy mug. So I had another question I was going to ask you right along those lines, and ADHD got me. But what are some of the what are some of the headaches, hassles, and horse shit you kind of had to deal with in building two-man power trip of wrestling and getting your name out there to where you are, like I said, you're friends with these icons now. So how did you get from I think I should do a podcast to Smash Cut 10 years later? You're like one of the like Nicho said, one of the OGs in our world.
Yeah, it's just almost surreal how fast time goes by too, because it's just like, wow, I remember not being able to get guests to be able to get a ton of great guests and basically do 1,000 interviews in the last 10 years. So it is crazy how that just kind of snowballed. I guess it's just because doing some convention circuits, doing so many interviews, and just kind of keep it going and being friendly with this guy who knows this guy, get you in touch with that guy. And then I guess you build some faith, you build some trust. And it's like, oh man, this guy's been around the block forever. It's like, I guess I'll do an interview with him. Or it's like, I trust this guy. I could work with him or let's do a podcast. It's a lot easier, now obviously than it was back then. Back then it was tough because there was really nobody doing it either back then. I was kind of like one of the first to really just do straight interviews that wasn't, Colt Cabana or somebody of that nature. So it was really nobody. Now it feels like everybody's trying to do that or attempt to do that.
I mean, yeah, even G-level stand-up comedians in San Antonio are now getting into wrestling podcasts and this stuff.
Yeah,
so, everybody's doing. All the marks are doing it now.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's really really interesting, man. I'm blown away. I'm kind of marking out a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you, kind of blown away that you just chopped it up with us, and we're talking wrestling. We are gonna get back to Memento and kind of tie that up. But I'm having a ball just getting to know Poz, the person, instead of after all these years of hearing you and Shane and the other podcasts you've been involved with. So it's a real treat for us. So
thank you.
Thank you enough for kicking it with us.
Well, that is part one of this great conversation CJ and I had with Mr. Jon Poz. For part two, head over there to the Extra Butter feed. That's where it's going to be at a week from today. If you liked and subscribed like I've been bugging you to, you're getting this episode at hot and fresh popcorn. But if you're like most people, backtracking from the future and it's in the Extra Butter feed. Just go to the description, go to the link tree, click on the Extra Butter feed, like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast for that feed, and you get all the incredible conversations me and CJ have had with some incredible people. All the stuff I did before, I used to call them minisodes, from Endgame 2019 to the present day. And yeah, so I am at Shut Up Popcorn on all your social medias. Go like, go follow, hit me up if you want to be on an episode. CJ is at CJ Tells Jokes on the social medias, and Jon Poz is at Two Man Power Trip. Do it now.
Take care, everybody.